Good morning, everyone, and happy holidays. First off, I want to thank President Megan Green and Alderwoman Alicia Saunier for their help with this. I also want to thank all of our department heads. We've been having several conversations with them about how to put all of this together, and especially my mayor's office staff for their hard work, and all of the other alderpersons who've been working with us to build this coalition to spend this money responsibly and in a way that helps everyone. And of course, the people of St. Louis, you have participated over the last year or so in a public engagement process, and we have taken all of your suggestions to heart, and this is what we have come up with. Did you know that St. Louis was the only city to take on the NFL and win? And today we are showing that our win is a win for everyone, from Del Mar to Dutchtown and every neighborhood in between. They deserve to benefit from these settlement funds. And the Board of Aldermen asks the public to give us guidance and insights on the best way to do that. And St. Louis City residents delivered. I'm proud to say that this bill, which we are calling the Transform STL Act, is a reflection of that public input and the deep intentional collaboration between my office, between President Megan Green's office, and the many members of the Board of Aldermen and our department heads. This is a once-in-a-lifetime generation opportunity that will be used to transform the lives of many generations to come and benefit St. Louisans throughout their entire lives. And to that end, the Transform STL Act will invest more than $270 million into three different funding buckets: people, development, and infrastructure. One of the essential functions of government is to make sure residents can get around the city no matter how they travel, and that they've got easy access to clean drinking water. While we are proud of the more than $300 million that's being invested in mobility infrastructure improvements between 2024 and 2027 through ARPA and other various sources, we're also aware that they will require continuous maintenance and improvements to prevent our streets, sidewalks, and bike infrastructure from falling into disrepair. This bill directs $60 million into the citywide Mobility Infrastructure Fund, which will be used for maintenance, improvements, and accessibility across our city. And $40 million is directed to the citywide Water Infrastructure Fund, which will be used to maintain and improve existing water infrastructure, conduct emergency repairs, provide matching funds for federal and state water infrastructure grants. And with these funds, we're looking at safer streets and clean water for St. Louis City for decades to come. And as we look to those future decades, we know that the success of our city relies on expanding our population, expanding our economy, and expanding our city workforce. And to be a city families and businesses want to move to and stay in, St. Louis needs a plentiful stock of affordable and market rate housing units focused on supporting local businesses. The Transform STL Act directs $70 million to the Citywide Housing Fund, which will expand the availability of housing in the city and offer support for first-time home buyers or tenants looking to stay in their rental units. And on that home buying piece, first priority for access will be given to city employees as a part of our efforts to recruit even more residents to our workforce, which is crucial to improving city services like trash collection and public safety. And another $30 million will be directed to the Citywide Neighborhood Development Fund, with a focus on supporting small businesses and nonprofits through capacity building, redevelopment, expansion, and other support to help their neighborhoods thrive. And finally, we know that our neighborhoods cannot thrive without our city's families, children, and workers. Our city is nothing without its people, and we want residents to grow up here and stay here. We also want to boost our recruitment and retention efforts for city employees so we can improve those essential services that help make our government run. This bill will direct $20 million to a new citywide workforce fund to expand the community workforce training efforts and city workforce training programs of the St. Louis Agency Training on Employment and Training and Employment, or SLATE. And $57.2 million will go to an endowment fund with two accounts held and invested by the city treasurer's office. One of those accounts will support residents by helping with child care costs, with first priority given to city employees, and other funding will be for the St. Louis Promise program, which will be a last dollar funding for the youth who live in the city who want to get post-secondary education or training in the city. I want to reiterate my pride in this collaboration effort. Good governance requires collaboration. And the Transform STL Act shows that we can accomplish that when we put our heads together and listen to the will of the people and listen to each other. I was born in St. Louis. I grew up in St. Louis, and I'm staying in St. Louis. And I hope the same is true for my son and so many future Joneses. This bill isn't about large appropriations. It's about opportunities we're given to current and future generations. We're building a government that takes care of you with safe streets, sidewalks, and drinking water. We're building a place where you don't have to go broke buying a home or sending your kid to college. We're building a place that takes care of our youth and families, starting in early childhood and providing pathways to middle-class jobs. We're building a brighter future for the city of St. Louis. And now, it's my pleasure to turn it over to President Megan Green, who will get a bit more into the mechanics of how these funds will work. President Green.
Good morning. I am so excited to be here after a year's worth of work into this endeavor. I want to first thank Mayor Jones and her administration for their commitment to this process and for working alongside my office and members of the Board of Aldermen to transform public priorities into public policy. I also want to express my gratitude for Alderwoman Saunier, who over the last year has brought together residents, community partners, and our colleagues to answer the question, how can we create generational prosperity for all residents, whether they live in North City, South City, or downtown? Through public hearings and online participation, residents made their response clear. A successful proposal must invest in infrastructure, development, and people. Infrastructure was frequently named by the more than 16,000 participants who engaged with us through the RAM settlement portal. Residents want to improve safety for all road users and maintain the high water quality that our city is known for nationally. The Transform STL Act establishes the Citywide Water Infrastructure Fund and Citywide Mobility Infrastructure Fund. These funds will continue the progress we've made with ARPA dollars and provide immediate capital to the Water Department and the Streets Department. And because residents know that building a resilient city takes more than upgrading roads and water systems, they call for a citywide development to strengthen all, not just some, of our neighborhoods. The Citywide Housing Fund will support affordable housing development, vacant property redevelopment, and matching funds for down payment assistance and mortgage loans. The Citywide Neighborhood Development Fund will drive economic growth in commercial corridors, focusing on local businesses, child care providers, and nonprofits. Another key priority for residents was affordable child care. The Children and Families Endowment Fund will subsidize child care for working families, offering them a financial lifeline and making it possible for stay-at-home parents to rejoin the workforce. And a related initiative will cover last dollar expenses for public school students who pursue post-secondary education. In sum, we want families to move into this city because we're going to provide them low-cost childcare, and we want them to stay here for the long term because we're going to help them pay for their kids' post-secondary education. Finally, the Workforce Development Fund will connect people with training and resources to secure dependable jobs. In addition to serving residents, these funds will prioritize childcare subsidies, down payment assistance, and professional development opportunities for city employees. Creating these benefits for city workers aligns with residents' vision to boost the value and appeal of city jobs. Residents know that attracting and retaining city workers is vital to improving the delivery of essential services like trash pickup, park maintenance, and pothole repairs. To maximize the settlement's reach and amplify its impact, each of these funds will be held in separate interest-bearing accounts. As departments work to prioritize spending, these funds will continue to grow. To date, this strategy has raised the city portion of the RAM settlement from $250 million to $277.2 million. Most importantly, this funding structure gives city departments the dedicated capital needed to apply for matching grants and low-interest loan programs. In sum, we want to keep these funds growing and moving over time. The Children and Families Endowment Fund differs slightly in that it will use only returns generated on the principal amount to fund specific initiatives for the long term. And by growing the principal amount through corporate and philanthropic contributions, the endowment would create a long-term, sustainable source of funding that could expand child care subsidies and college aid for the long term. Together, these investments put us on track to meet our city's greatest challenge: population decline. The growth of our city depends on fostering a vibrant community where people want to live and work. And I believe this plan offers compelling incentives for families and individuals to start their lives in their city and build their lives in the city for the long term. I want to close by recognizing that this process has been more than finding solutions. It's been about rebuilding trust between residents and local leaders. And after more than a year of working with the public, local leaders have a meaningful opportunity to demonstrate that we are listening and that residents' voices are central to the decisions that are being made here to shape our future. And with that, I want to turn things over to my friend and colleague, Alderwoman Saunier of the 7th Ward and the chair of the Committee of the Whole.
I first want to start by thanking the people of the city of St. Louis. Not long ago, when I ran for office and knocked doors, I heard from door to door all of the questions and all of the concerns that the city had. And after I got elected and had the privilege of becoming the Alderwoman of the 7th, and we began to embark on our Committee of the Whole process, I remember when President Green approached me and Mayor Jones, and we were having these conversations about this concept of a Committee of the Whole. To me, it was incredible because what I heard many city residents saying is that they were tired of divisions keeping their leaders from coming together and figuring out solutions for them. So this historic idea of every single member of the Board of Aldermen, of the Comptroller's office, of the Mayor's office, of the President's office, all coming together on a regular idea to discuss things that came from the public was historic in itself. And it's the only reason that I agreed to facilitate the process, because I knew that it was important to show our residents that we can work together and that we do put you first. While there are many things in this bill that I could focus on, I want to really focus on the people, because that's what we're here for. The Transform Act stands for turning RAM's assets into strategic funding opportunities to revitalize and maintain St. Louis. A large goal of the bill and a large part of what we want to show is that we don't live in a zero-sum game, that we do not have to choose between this issue or that issue, and to do so is poor leadership. We know that our city has a number of struggles. We know that our residents have a number of priorities, and we want to show you that we can and we will meet those number of priorities. So, to the city worker who is frustrated because we've had our earnings tax cut, who is frustrated because we're struggling with staffing, we want you to know that we hear you. We want you to know that we want you to stay in this with us and that we are determined to figure it out. Almost everything in this bill prioritizes city workers, which means that you will get first access and first dibs to the things in this bill. We know that's important because the residents that are at their home, who want their trash picked up, who need their potholes filled, who want their parks to have thriving greenery, who want to have robust engagement, need city workers to get that done. It's also important because for a very bold, ambitious policymaker like myself and many of my other colleagues, We understand that our ideas and the things that we put on paper cannot be done without your work, and that you deserve the proper compensation and benefits. And we want you to know that that's prioritized. To the mothers, and particularly to the children of the city, we want you to know that we see you and we see the numbers. The fastest declining population in St. Louis is that of families. When people have children, they're choosing to go elsewhere. So we focused a lot of our effort and energy on this bill on why that is. And we found out it was a number of ideas, and many of them are things that the city has been struggling with from decades. Whether it's affordable housing, whether it's having to spend a mortgage on childcare, whether it's struggling to access post-secondary opportunities, which I want to emphasize is not limited to just college. When we say all, not some, we're not just focusing on those who graduate high school and want to go to college. I have peers who make great money as welders, as carpenters, as union members, and we want to make sure that there's supports. If you are a student, you went to the city of St. Louis for school, you want to pursue higher education, you want to give back to your community, we want to support you in those endeavors. We want to give people a reason to stay here. We want you to know that whether it is a concern for water, which is really important, we can see all across our country what happens when cities fail to make needed improvements on their water. And one of the things that St. Louis does uniformly agree on is we have some of the best water, and we want to keep that for you. To the folks who drive our streets, which is every single one of us in this room and our residents, we know, we hear about the bumpy rides. We know, we hear about this is not moving fast enough, that's not moving fast enough, which is why we're suggesting the idea of starting a fund that is just focused on sidewalks and streets and things that can go on in perpetuity. We know that city residents just voted overwhelmingly for Department of Transportation. That means we're going to have some conversations as a board, and we're going to need some resources to do those things as a city, and that is the purpose of the citywide infrastructure fund. To those who are right now like myself, you've been in the city of St. Louis, you're a young adult, you're walking into adulthood, you're thinking about buying a home, but you're struggling to find a home that is of quality that you can afford. You don't have $3,000 to put down a down payment, or to you the idea of a $300,000 or $400,000 home seems overwhelmingly. We want you to know that we hear you. And that's why we hope that one of the things that we can do with this bill is create a matching down payment fund for city workers and for city residents. Think of the power of having $1,500 that has now become $3,000, $3,000 that has now become $6,000, and what that does to open up where we're going. Think of the many vacancies we have in our cities, the many land that's left to be developed. We want to support our community development corporations and other developers to build this market rate housing that we need. There are so many things in this bill that I am excited about. But most importantly, what I want to do in this moment is make sure that when we speak about this bill, we speak factually. This bill is not against anybody. This bill is for the people. This bill is not in opposition of any entity or anything. This bill is a result of a process that was over a year, where over 16,000 residents made their priorities clear. And so our goal in the coming weeks with this process is to continue that sense of collaboration, continue that sense of, out of everything that we have going, every leader's responsibility, our core responsibilities is to solve problems. And it's my hope that the next time a 27-year-old Black woman becomes alderwoman, she won't have to spend her time fighting for the issues that I've had to today. It's my hope that these transformational ideas that are new, that are bold, that they will lead to solutions, that will mean that 20 years ago, we're not talking about streets that aren't paved. We're not talking about as much difficulty with access and childcare. We're not talking about such a need for affordable housing, but leaders at that time are able to discuss new issues because the leaders of today came together and put the people first and thought innovatively. Thank you.